Good morning and welcome to an episode of Unabashedly Resolute Daily Musings. Haven't done one of these in a while. Actually, I haven't had the bandwidth to do one of these in a while. Wife and I we're doing a homestead. And I still work, so Unabashedly Resolute has been kind of not getting the attention that it fully deserves and needs. But today it just became really apparent and really obvious to me what's going on in the world. No, not just becoming apparent, but you have those moments in life where you're like, this is exactly where we are. The reason why we're having such discord comes down to a fundamental understanding of worldview. When you understand why you believe what you believe, then you understand what it is exactly that you believe, so you also understand what it is that other people believe. So if you can deconstruct and reconstruct your worldview in such a manner that you see clearly as you can, Paul says we see through a glass darkly, but where you are, you can see as clearly as you can. Then you can also deconstruct other people's worldview by what they say and how they behave, and come to find out what it is they believe and what drives them in pursuit of their beliefs. And what you see is, it is impossible for progressive Christians or progressives in any respect, progressive ideologies, it is impossible for them to come to more conservative conclusions. What this means is there will be nothing that the progressive element, there will be nothing that they are content with. There will be no social contentment wherewith the progressive element can build a society. Here's the reason why so many, or here's not the reason, here's a reason why progressives are okay with LGBTQIA+. I mean, the plus people have to really take that one on the chin. That kind of sucks for people. You're diminishing my identity to a plus sign, and the organization says, well, we can't put everything out there. Yeah, but you start out with the LGBTQIA. They all get stuff. Why don't we? We're a plus. That's gonna be some cannibalism happen there. Once a few more loud voices get wrapped up in the plus section of that, we're gonna have a serious problem. So there is no understanding. There is no middle ground now in this pluralistic society. And what I mean is, the progressive element is in full stride. The progressive element, by its very existence and definition, cannot and will not allow there to be conservative policies, conservative leaders, and conservative thought inside of mainstream society. Because conservatism says we need to conserve things that work. And the progressive element says nothing has worked, and therefore it all must be transitioned in the name of progress. And so they are now attacking objective reality. And in this attack upon objective reality, it necessarily means that there is no way that the two sides are going to come to an agreement. If conservatives come to agreements with progressives, it is only transient. It is only for a period of transition, which means the progressives will push the conservatives past their conservative traditions to accept and to be tolerant towards progressive ideas. Progressive ideas involve the transition of men into women, women into men and women into non-binaries, men and women in humans into non-human species, able-bodied people into disabled-bodied people, and aged people into specific aged people into fluidity of age people. Now, the progressive element will take what they can get for now. They'll push for more, because here's the thing: progressive elements are never content to build societies. They are not. Their goal is not to build. Their goal is to push societies into progress. So, if at some point you, as a thinker, think that you would like for society to be at a certain point, and therefore continue and perpetuate this optimal stasis, the progressive element will say, well, you too now are a conservative, and you must be done away with. Your ideologies are old, they're antiquated, they're outdated, and you're a bigot, and you're... I know progressive people don't want to hear that their great ideologies at some point are going to be considered conservative and bigoted. It's the whole process of getting rid of the tallest man in the room, right? We're going to get rid of the tallest man in the room, because the tallest man in the room makes everybody else feel short. They have tall privilege. So let's get rid of the tallest man in the room. Well, you get rid of the tallest man in the room, guess what happens? The next tallest man in the room, now he has height privilege. He has tall privilege. And so we need to get rid of the tallest man in the room now. At some point, you will be the tallest man in the room. And you will be kicked outside, and you will be ostracized and excommunicated from the progressive element. That is the nature of the progressive element. That means you have to be the avant-garde. You have to be the tip of the tip of the spear all the time. There is no optimal stasis in progressive. The optimal stasis is progress. Always, always, always progressing. So what this means is, the ideas that we have now of transition and of... See, conservatives could never come to the idea of transition. And here's why conservatives cannot come to the idea of transition. And this is why classical pre-modern thinkers could never have come to the idea of transition. One thing transitioning into another thing. Okay? Here's why they could never come to that idea. Because objective reality is the fundamental foundation, cornerstone of conservative thinking. And it's this notion that there are things that are ontologically true, self-evident, ontologically true, objective realities that cannot be messed with. You cannot twist the fabric of reality to your epistemological will, to your whims and your capricious thought, to your progress, if it violates an ontological truth. Your truth cannot violate an ontological truth. It's impossible. And so there is no way that a conservative could come to the idea that transitioning is okay, it's morally good. Not only is it morally good and okay, it is the optimal state of human beings to transition from what they are to whatever they want to be. Conservative thinking and pre-modern classical thinking, even modern thinking, could never come to these conclusions because of the necessity of concrete and objective reality. What we know to be true is that this is the difference. Watch this language shift. Classical or pre-modern thinkers and modern thinkers have assigned categories to reality and have usurped that authority upon reality. And by doing so, we only know man as man because cisgendered, heterosexual humans with testosterone and penises said, biological males said, these things are such, and therefore had an XX chromosome person with a vagina and the possibility of bearing children, an ovum and eggs. If that person, if they had been in charge of categorization, then the categories would have been much different, and what we call male now might not have been, and what we call female now might not have been. And so a dog might not be a dog. We may have categorized it as something else. That is the notion that it is will to power categorizations. The people who have power and influence, they determined what reality was. Therefore, they have placed upon, they've hoisted upon civilization realities which they think are reality. So that is the claim. So therefore, everything preceding you is only the reality because those in power said it was reality. So it is oppressive. So everything before you has been hoisted upon you, and you've been oppressed with this reality. We can deconstruct that reality and create our own new world. I've heard that before somewhere. I've heard that language of villains. I've heard the villains say things like that before, and I'm trying to remember which villain that said that they would make a heaven out of hell. Because heaven is actually hell. And we'll go down to hell and we'll make a heaven out of it. I've heard that language before. So that is the notion. It's a will to power notion that only people in power are the ones who created reality. And so reality is actually subjective reality that has been accepted by consensus and therefore perpetrated upon us, citizenry, the layman, and we now bear the responsibility for, cisgendered European males who had God complexes and created what we call reality now. So that is one notion. Here's the conservative notion. The conservative notion is, by observation, we can discover objective, self-evident truths by mere observation. And we discover these we discover objective truths. We don't create them out of whole cloth based on will to power. We are coming from the idea of will to meaning, which means we are looking at reality. We're looking at how we behave and what things work and what things and optimal stasis, and we're saying this is the optimal stasis. It doesn't matter whether the shade of your melanin or your reproductive organs. What matters is there is an objective reality whether you accept it or not. Reality is objective. And here are the things that we have come to, the conclusions that we have come to in the subjective reality. And we have come to these conclusions, and they've worked because they have worked over millennia, thousands and thousands of years. Thousands and thousands of years, we have seen these self-evident truths, these objective things take place, and they work. If you have XY chromosomes, if you have a penis, if you have testicles, if you are biologically categorized as such, you are a male. It is not that men hoisted upon reality and said this thing's going to be a male. What we did is we looked through all of history, and things that carried the potentiality for life, we call that the progenitor, that carry the substance that helps create life. That's called the progenitor. They store the ability for that life. Now, those who have the ability to carry that life and bring it to full term, well, that's a maternal instinct, and that has happened throughout. And any species that has that potentiality, we call that species. That we call that part of the species, we call that female. So in the plants, we have male and female plants, and they all act similar. It has been an object observation that male things carry the progenitive quality, and that females carry the maternal and the procreative side of this, that they actually can carry, birth, and nurture the thing that is inside of the male. And we see that all throughout nature, on every avenue. That is an observable, objective fact. So male and female are not epistemological whims or will to power unilateral precepts. In fact, we have just observed life and said this is the optimal fashion. So you see that there's no way for the conservative and progressive to come together, because our fundamentals, where we're coming from, how we see the world are diametrically opposed. Most of the progressive element that I've read and I've seen, I could be correct on this, see life through a will to power, more of a even if you want to say more of a will to power, survival of the fittest, but actually that falls apart in a little bit. But this will to power and conservative thinking, pre-modern and modern thinking, come from the idea, not all modern thinking, but the pre-modern thinking, especially in classical thinking, and logic and reason, come from the idea of will to meaning. Let us observe and find the optimal stations of a particular thing, categorize those things that make it unique, and then determine that if something has these categorizations, they fit these categories, that they are therefore going to be considered to be a specific thing in itself. Everything having these qualifications is that thing. Things not having these qualifications are something else, but they are not the thing that we are being qualified. That is an objective way to look at reality. And what it means is that you cannot twist that reality if you don't like the outcome. If you don't like the fact that you are a man, you have to find a way to reconcile that. You cannot twist reality and say, well, I am no longer a man, I'm a cat, or I'm a dog, or I'm a dragon, or I'm whatever, because we would call that a delusion, because it does not correlate with reality as has been observed for thousands of years. And if that were to be true, then thousands of years of history would be wrong. And furthermore, the idea that you are a whatever you think you are has also been defined and determined by that same history, that same logic, and that same reason. And if you say, well, I'm a dragon, we only understand dragons in exactly the same rational, objective way that we understand male and female, men and women. So, in truth, when you say dragon, it means absolutely nothing. If you and all your qualifications as a biological male say that you are not a man, but you are either a woman, or that you are a dragon, or you're a cat, or you're a blue jay, or you're abled but you think you're disabled, or you're a 65-year-old man and you think you're a 5-year-old child, You cannot twist the fabric of reality to meet that, because every qualification which you are reaching for, every definition which you are saying that you are, is defined in the exact same way, exact same categorizations wherein you are defined as a male, as a man. And so you cannot reach for a definition that is not steeped in conservative, fundamental, objective reality. So in fact, when you say you're a dragon, it means absolutely nothing, because it is based on objective reality that a dragon is something. That there are specific categories that a dragon fulfills. And if you deny that your objective categories make you a man, then you cannot accept that you are a dragon based on the categories and qualities for which you think that make you a dragon. It is a contradiction of terms. Now, here's the thing. This is still based in will to meaning. If you accept will to power, then because you have authority and you're autonomous, you can call yourself whatever you want. You are going to say contradictions don't matter because I am, in a sense, I would say I am God, but I am autonomous. Therefore, I determine what I am. In the will to power, the problem is that your definitions don't mean anything because they are rooted in yourself. That is circular reasoning. That is logic that is circular, and it begs questions that cannot be answered. It is circular reasoning. I am the determination of my own identity. The problem is you don't have any foundations for which to build definitions and for which to make such judgments. Because if you yourself are your own determination, then, and you deny your categorical, historical and categorical objective realities and say that you are something else, then therefore you are nothing, because you don't have anything other than yourself to pull from. And you, by denying objective reality, don't even know that you exist, because you is an abstract concept that is still rooted in objective and categorical reality. And if you start to deny objective reality, where this is going to lead is going to be utter, total chaos. And I mean, it's coming. If this takes hold and everyone thinks that they can self-determine, then you actually have nothing from which to determine yourself, because you, as an abstract thing, have no foundation. You are a kite that the string has been cut, and you are flitting aimlessly in the wind, and you will be brought low. Just the facts, man.